cardiac services in the South East has been a very big issue for people who live in the region, and on foot of a number of meetings with Oireachtas members from across the South East and an all-party arrangement, the Minister for Health agreed to a national review that would look not just at the South East but look at provision of what's called PPCI, or emergency cardiac care, right across the state. The South East is the only PPCI centre that has a single cath lab, and the clinicians and the consultants say that that's not viable and it's not the best method, because it's a single point of failure, and when that cath lab at any time runs into difficulty or whether it needs to be repaired, the service is completely shut down. In fact, over the last month alone, the cath lab has closed on 3 different occasions because of maintenance problems. Funding has been made available to upgrade the existing cath lab at University Hospital Waterford, but hospital management can't do it until they have a contingency in place, because it would mean closing the lab for about 3 months, and having no emergencies then going to the hospital for that length of time would be, at any time of the day, especially during the busy times of weekdays, would be unacceptable. So I'm anxious to get a sense of where the national review is. When it was first established, the Minister said that he hoped it would take 15 months. It may take 18 months. It's certainly been established and in place longer than that. I know it has a lot of work to do. Part of it is public consultation. Part of it is going out into all of the regions and meeting with all of the stakeholders, including consultants in each of the PPCI centres. I accept all of that. But we need to have some indication as to when they will conclude their work, and we need to have some certainty given to patients right across the region that, in fact, there is a safe and accessible service. I firmly believe that clinicians have to guide policy in this area, because I know that to transition to a 24/7 PPCI service requires additional specialist staff, and we all accept that. But equally, people in the South East deserve to have the same opportunities as anybody else, and it's my position, from a logical perspective, that it isn't safe that you have patients out of the hours of Monday to Friday from 9 to 5 who get an emergency heart attack, who have to travel to either Cork or Dublin for emergency care because it isn't provided on a 24/7 basis in the South East. A second cath lab is being progressed. It's at design stage. It's very frustrating that it has taken so long even to get it to design stage, and I think that's adding to the sense of frustration that the people in the South East and people in Waterford have, because they were expecting much more progress on this and to see delivery of this happening an awful lot quicker. But it has been committed to, the funding is there, and it's at design 2 stage at the moment. A private hospital is constructing another cath lab, so we will end up, hopefully, in the next 12 months or less, with 3 cath labs operating in Waterford. And I think with that in mind, it makes perfect sense then to expand the service to a 24/7 position. But what we know is that just can't happen overnight. And the reason why it's important that this review group concludes its work and makes its recommendation, because hopefully it will be a positive one, and that Waterford should become a 24/7 PPCI centre. But for that to happen, it needs to recruit the staff and have the interventional cardiologists and the support staff and the radiographers and so on. And that's why I'm anxious that the report is concluded, it makes its recommendation, and if it's positive, the groundwork can be done and we can get the service delivered for the people of the region.
Thank you very much, Deputy Cullinane. Minister.
Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach, and I'd like to thank Deputy Cullinane for raising the important issue of the National Review of Specialist Cardiac Services, and for giving me an opportunity to update the House on the latest position in this regard. The National Review of Specialist Cardiac Services commenced in January 2018 under the chairmanship of Professor Philip Nolan, and a steering group was formed from nominations from interested stakeholders representing medical, professional technical staff, nursing and patient representatives. The aim of this review is to achieve optimal patient outcomes at population level, with particular emphasis on the safety, quality and sustainability of the services that patients receive, by establishing the need for an optimal configuration of a national adult cardiac service. As set out in the National Development Plan 2018-27, investment in cardiac catheterisation laboratories and other cardiac services infrastructure nationally will be informed by the outcome of the National Review. Since the steering group first met at the end of January 2018, a large volume of its work has been completed. 13 steering group meetings have taken place, with a further 2 meetings scheduled to take place. To date, the National Review has completed a public consultation survey, collated and analysed information on activity levels in each of the hospital groups and all hospitals within the groups. A successful and well-attended stakeholder consultation was held in November 2018. The Health Research Board, Collaboration in Ireland for Clinical Effectiveness Review, has completed an evidence review of specialist cardiac services, looking at 1. International standards for PCI centres and 2. International models that might be applicable to the Irish healthcare system, the relationship between volume and patient outcomes for PCI. The evidence review has provided important guidance for the steering group thus far, and arising from discussions at the steering group, they have been asked to complete 1 additional evidence review question. Site visits to PCI centres around Ireland are currently underway, and 2 international site visits are being planned. These site visits have included meetings with stakeholders in clinical, administrative, nursing and allied health professional roles. Further research is currently being undertaken by the Health Intelligence Unit of the HSE with regards to geospatial analysis and mapping of networks of cardiac services from a national perspective.
Thank you very much, Minister. Deputy, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, I thank the Minister for his response. I think the Minister's speech sets out very clearly the work of the review group itself, and obviously they have done an awful lot of research. They've met with a lot of stakeholders. They're in the process of meeting and visiting PPCI centres, not just in this state but internationally, and obviously I support all of that work, because whatever decisions are made have to be underpinned by clinical evidence and good clinical governance, and I have no difficulty with that whatsoever. But the question I asked was, can they give us any indication when they might conclude their work? And there is an urgency to this, because this is a huge issue for people in the South East. And I think the Minister would know and appreciate that if he has been following this story. There's been a large number of protests, with, on the last occasion, 10,000 people in the South East taking to the streets because they're concerned and they're fearful about not having the service. And I've never been alarmist about it, and I'm not going to raise people's fears, and never have. I didn't promise to deliver it. I promised to raise this issue as much as I can, and do so in an honest and an earnest way to get the best outcome for the people who live in the South East. But when they see this, they still don't see any indication when there's going to be an end and when the work is going to be complete. So while I thank the Minister for setting out in detail, which he did, the work of the steering group, which is all very welcome and it's very extensive, if he's able to follow that up through letter or communication to get some indication as to when they might have either an interim report or a final report, because that's what people are waiting for. They're waiting for the recommendations. They're waiting for a sense that this work will conclude and recommendations will be made, and then we'll know one way or the other what services will be put in place in each region. So if I can ask the Minister to come back with that, because to be fair, Cathaoirleach, that was the question that was asked, the time frame for delivery. And it's not surprising to me it was the one question that wasn't answered, and that raises concerns for me. So I just respectfully say to the Minister that if he could get that for me and communicate that some estimation, I think that would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Final 2 minutes, Minister.
Thank you again, Chair. And can I just acknowledge the Deputy Opposite's bona fides in this regard, and thank him for his constructive approach and assistance with this question. And I do accept and appreciate the spirit with which you come to this, and you do not wish to be antagonistic or political about it, but genuinely just to raise the issue and get it sorted, as do indeed all the other Oireachtas colleagues, which you'll be the first to acknowledge down in the South East as well. The Chair has indicated that he hopes to have the review completed by the end of this year. So that is the hope, and the Minister would be expect to be aware if there was any change to that timeline. So as far as the Minister is concerned at this point in time, the hope is that the review would be completed by the end of this year, and that's the Chair's hope as well. And obviously the Minister would be notified if there was any major change to that timeline. And I again appreciate the opportunity, I suppose, to outline the detail which the Deputy Opposite acknowledges as well, the level of detailed work that has been taken by that committee, and to thank him, each of the members and stakeholders for that, and indeed the Chair as well for the good work. We look forward to the results, hopefully by the end of the year, as is the Chair's intention.